Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Chantel. This is my basic journey. I live and travel in a minivan with my dog Joey, and we're currently camped outside of Phoenix, Arizona. We've been in the desert for months now, and it's getting to the middle of March, which means that spring is coming soon, and in a couple of weeks it's going to be way too warm for me to be staying here. So I have been kind of slowly planning where we'll be going for spring and summer, and you know, part of me really wanted to go back to the West Coast. I love it there, and the weather is perfect on the coast during the summer, but we're gonna mix things up this year. We're gonna go do some other things, but while we're just chilling and hanging out, we're just gonna be sitting and camping here near Phoenix. And it's been kind of crappy weather the last couple of days. Today is rainy. Yesterday was super cloudy and it rained at night. And today is thunderstorming. It is thunderstorming, like there's actual thunder and lightning happening, which to me is amazing because it has been so long since I've seen a real thunderstorm. It feels amazing. And for me personally, I love thunderstorms. I grew up in Illinois, so we have a lot of storms during the summer, and it is a very common practice to sit on your porch and watch the thunderstorm. And if there is a tornado warning, it's even better. You need to watch the tornadoes come in. But I haven't seen a thunderstorm or lightning in so long, so it was really nice actually to get this day of a actual thunderstorm. But now all the roads that I'm on right now are turned to muck, and so I can't move for at least 2 days before it dries out again. So we're just chilling. I figured today we could just kind of have a sit down and talk video. I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about how I find my camping and where I camp at. And so typically I try to stay at places that are free, and technically they aren't free technically because we pay for them in our taxes. So whether that's Forest Service roads or BLM land, we pay for those in our taxes, so I'm really just using what I pay for. But there's been a few places that I've stayed recently that were on Arizona trust land, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So in Arizona, a lot of places will have like state land versus federal land. So in Arizona, they have Arizona state trust land. And here in the state of Arizona, if you pay $16 for the year, for an entire year, you can get a trust permit, and so I can stay in places like the one I'm at now for up to 2 weeks. And so the rules are actually very similar to BLM, except for the fact that you do have to pay that $16 or whatever to get the permit, which is fine because $16 is really cheap. I've been camped in this spot for, I don't know, like 5 days now, and nobody has come up to me and asked me to show them my permit or anything. And the last few spots that I've actually boondocked at were actually Arizona State Trust land and not BLM. So the spot that I was staying at near the Superstitions in Gold Canyon was State Trust land, and then the spot near Catalina with the beautiful mountains in the background, that was also State Trust land. And so you do technically need a permit in order to camp there, but like I said, it was really cheap to get. And I remember going to Washington, and Washington has a very similar pass. It's called the Discover Pass, and you have to have this Discover Pass permit thing in order to camp on some of the Forest Service roads that they have out there, because they are not just Forest Service federally owned, it's actually through Washington State. And in order to camp at some free campgrounds and stuff, they do require you to have this Discover Pass. So it's very similar, except for the one in Washington, I think I paid like $30 or $40 for the annual pass instead of $16. But there are so many more options now that I have this pass of places that I can stay. It's actually really nice because, like I said, the spot that I'm in now was not even on iOverlander, and so I'm not going to dox it, but it's very quiet compared to some of the BLM areas out here that I've been to, especially if they're posted on iOverlander. They tend to be a lot busier with a lot closer of neighbors. But this is nice. We're actually kind of close to the city. We're about 22 minutes from the Mesa Walmart. That's how long it took me to get here from there. So it is kind of close, but it is definitely far enough where you don't have any of the city noise. And because it's like a paid camping area, you don't have a lot of the riffraff, which I have found in a lot of the camping areas near Phoenix, but this is nice. It's very quiet, and you still have the superstitions in the background. There's cactus all over. There is some ATV noise, but I don't mind that. Just know that, you know, that is something you'll run out to probably anywhere you camp in Arizona. But yeah, I am like loving this trespass that I got. It's really just giving me so many more places to camp, which is great. It's crazy to think that in a few months, I will have lived on the road for 4 years. Yeah. At the end of May, beginning of June, it'll be 4 years I've lived in this minivan. It is so crazy to think about. But I just remember being like freshly on the road, and that was like one of the things I was worried about the most was finding places to camp and to live, essentially. Because if you're going and you're on the road full time, you're not going to be wanting to move every single day. I got myself really burnt out that first year. I was going and going and going like crazy, and I just completely burned myself out. So I've gotten to a really nice, steady pace now. So it's nice to find a place like on BLM or State Trust where you can stay for up to 14 days. I typically don't. I feel like the longest that I stay somewhere is like 7 to 10 days max, just because that's typically when I run out of water. But as far as finding places to stay, I have remained consistent in the advice that I give, and that is to use iOverlander. iOverlander is the perfect app, whether you've been on the road for a long time or just starting out, to find places to stay. They will usually have people who have commented also, letting you know what the road was like, if it was safe to park there, whether they got the knock or not. It's just an awesome app. You can also use, what's the other one? freecampsites.net. I don't usually use that one as much as I use the other one. iOverlander is just my go-to. I would say that 95% of the places that I've stayed were found on iOverlander, and the other 5% is made up of like word of mouth, and like the place I'm at now, just driving by and noticing people camping there and being like, ooh, maybe I should try that out one day. So yeah, definitely iOverlander is the way to go to find places, and they will most likely tell you as well if it is Arizona State Trust, or if you need a certain pass to stay there, or if it costs money at all, or if it's free, what the day range is, because sometimes you'll find places that are amazing camping areas, but they only allow you to stay 3 or 5 days. And so finding places to stay actually ended up being one of the things that was easier to do than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I was so nervous about that, and I think it was like 2 years it took me before I actually stayed in a Walmart parking lot, and it wasn't until last summer when I went up the coast that I actually stayed in towns, because I was way more comfortable staying out here in the boonies and the sticks away from society than I was actually staying in towns. But yeah, it took me a long time, and I feel like a lot of people think the opposite way, where they feel safer staying in a town rather than out in the middle of nowhere. But also, something that I get asked a lot is why I never go to the East Coast, and I'm gonna be very honest with you guys, because if you look at the iOverlander map, right, and you go to the West Coast, you're gonna see those little green bubbles pop up everywhere, and there are so many places to camp on the West Coast. As soon as you get east of the Mississippi, finding places for free to stay becomes a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller of areas. So then when you do find the places that are actually free, they tend to be a lot more packed with people. And so I haven't really done much of the East Coast. Mind you, I did grow up in Illinois, and so all of those Midwestern states, also New York, North Carolina, and Florida, I've visited and explored all of that already, and so I love the West Coast. It is so much easier to find camping here, and even this summer, I'm not going to be going that far east, but I'm not going to be doing the coast this summer. It's just so much easier to find free camping out here. There is way more BLM and way more national forest land. As soon as you get east of that, there is way less national forest roads that you can camp on, less dispersed camping. There's virtually no BLM land. It's just way, way easier on the West Coast to do van life in general. So That is why I typically tend to stay west of the Mississippi. I know I get asked that quite a lot, but honestly, I love the West Coast. I feel like I still haven't seen everything that I've wanted to see over here. And so there are a couple states that I plan on doing this summer that I did not get to explore much of that are still west of the Mississippi. So comment below which states you think I'm going to be traveling to over the summer. It has been relentlessly raining all morning, and I am just watching this huge lake form right next to my van. Like, am I gonna have to move so I don't get flooded into this lake? It's not that serious, but there is a lot of water building up right here. Anyways, that was a little rundown of how I typically find my spots and the type of areas that I normally stay in. I am partial to staying at a rest area or a truck stop. I would choose those over a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel any day. I do love the white noise sound of trucks though, so if that is something that would bother you, I would stay away from truck stops. But I actually thoroughly enjoy staying at truck stops. Most of them have showers and coffee, gas, and so it's actually very convenient to stay overnight at a truck stop so you can have all of that with you when you wake up in the morning. But rest areas are cool too. I typically only stay at those if I'm going to be traveling long distances that I'm going to have to like stop for an overnight that's very quick. But typically I stay out in the middle of nowhere away from civilization. And that is just the way that I've always liked it. And I get asked all the time if I get lonely. The answer is no. I feel like I am just one of those people who are born that way. I was an only child growing up, so I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that I don't get typically lonely when I'm alone. I really thoroughly enjoy my solitude and the quiet, so I don't know. I get asked that all the time, and also, am I scared being out here alone as a solo female? No. And I feel like there has been a couple times, which I have already told the stories on this channel a few times, so I'm not going to go through them, but there's only been a couple times where I've been weary of where I'm at. We've been talking a lot about the free places that I like to stay, even though Arizona State Trust, you do have to pay that $16 for a year, but I still consider that pretty free because it's very, very cheap. But sometimes I do like to splurge, and I know if you guys have been following my channel a lot, you'll see that I used to splurge on places like hotels and campgrounds and RV parks a lot more often than I do now, and I think I've just become a little bit more frugal on trying to not spend as much, if you guys know, especially like in the current economic state of everything. I am trying to save up as much as possible and not be frivolous in my spending of RV parks and hotels. But I used to, like, at least once a month stay at either a campground or an RV park or hotel, and I don't do that anymore, but it would be very nice. So anyways, I know that this video was kind of short and just me chatting it up with you guys, but I got questions on the last video of where I was staying, and I thought I would make a little video about it because it was not BLM and it was not free for me to stay there. I did have to have a permit that was 16 bucks. So I thought I would come on here and share that little bit of information with you guys, so that way if you decide to come down to Arizona, you can know to get that permit, and it'll definitely open up your horizons on the amount of places that you can stay. So I hope that this was helpful in some way, and thanks for hanging out with me in the rain. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, definitely subscribe below. I'll also put a link for my Patreon in the description box in case you're interested in checking that out and helping support my channel. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!